As soon as you step into the thin air of the Andean Mountains, you feel it, that strange sense that the world is older here, wiser here, and full of creatures that seem too extraordinary to belong anywhere else. And if you've ever wondered why biologists keep calling the Andes a factory of evolution, here's a secret. It's because each species you're about to meet has survived extremes that would break almost anything else on Earth. And the deeper you go, the more you realize you're not just looking at animals. You're looking at 10 different solutions life invented to conquer the impossible. Take the Andean Condor, for instance. Every time one launches from a cliff, it's like watching physics momentarily lose an argument. Because this thing is so massive, it shouldn't be able to fly at all. Yet it rides thermals with a mastery that took millions of years to perfect. And the more you watch it glide without flapping for hours, the more one question nags at you. How did a bird become king of the skies in a place where the air is so thin you can barely stand still without panting? But then you look at its 9-foot wingspan and realize it didn't just adapt, it optimized. It made the Andes its runway. But that's just the beginning. Because somewhere below those same cliffs, a creature that looks like it should be in a children's storybook is hopping across rocks with a confidence that borders on reckless. The Andean mountain Vizcacha, with its rabbit-like face and long curled tail, lives its life in bursts of sunlight between icy winds. And while it looks like it's built for softness, it's one of the toughest survivors here. Every time it disappears behind a boulder, you're left wondering how something so fluffy consistently avoids everything that wants to eat it. And the answer becomes clear the moment you notice how it never stops scanning, listening, calculating. Cute, yes. Foolish, never. Then comes the animal you'd never expect to find thriving near glaciers, the vicuña. If you tracked one long enough, you'd notice it navigating those barren slopes like a dancer who somehow learned choreography from the wind. What makes it special isn't just its elegance. It's the fact that it carries the most valuable wool in the world, a fleece so fine that ancient Inca royalty claimed exclusive rights to it. But the real hook is this. Vicuñas are so sensitive to danger, they can spot a predator before your eyes even register movement. And that's the moment you realize their survival strategy isn't speed or aggression. It's awareness. Move a little higher, and you'll find a feathered puzzle perched beside glacial pools, the Andean Flamingo. It shouldn't exist here. Everything about flamingos screams tropical warmth. But Andes flamingos use icy lakes filled with harsh minerals as safe havens. While other animals avoid these alkaline waters, flamingos turn them into buffets. Watching one dip its beak again and again, straining microscopic algae from the liquid, you start to notice something. Every challenge in the Andes eventually becomes a loophole for the species clever enough to exploit it. Then there's the spectacled bear, the only bear species in South America. If you follow its path long enough, you'll pick up on something very strange. It climbs more like a cat than a bear. When it balances on impossibly thin branches to reach fruit or bromeliads, you start to understand why locals call it the guardian of the mountains. This bear doesn't dominate its environment with size, it survives with finesse. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize you are watching an animal that perfected adaptability by becoming neither strictly predator nor strictly herbivore. It simply becomes whatever the day requires. Look closely at the cliffs. and you might spot a flash of turquoise and cinnamon. The Andean Hillstar Hummingbird feeding on flowers that look like they were deliberately placed where only the bravest birds could reach. These hummingbirds beat their wings so fast you hear them before you see them, yet somehow they stay warm in places where night temperatures drop below freezing. And that's when you notice their secret. They can enter a state like suspended animation at night, slowing their metabolism to survive cold that would kill almost any other bird their size. They don't fight the environment. They negotiate with it. If you descend toward wetlands, you might encounter something far larger, the Andean goose. At first, it looks like any other goose, but then you remember this bird lives at altitudes where humans need acclimation to survive. And as it takes off in slow, heavy wing beats, you realize what makes it remarkable. Its blood carries oxygen with extreme efficiency, allowing it to fly where the air feels almost empty. Everything the Andes strips away, the Andean goose somehow finds a way to reclaim. Hidden in the cloud forests is the jewel of the region, the Andean cock of the rock. If you spot its fiery plumage against green moss, your brain immediately asks, why would evolution make something this bright in a place filled with predators? But then you follow the sound of its calls and find a lek, a clearing where males display in dramatic dances. They're not trying to blend in at all. They're trying to be impossible to ignore. And you realize these birds don't survive by hiding. They survive by outperforming. High above them, in the Paramo grasslands, lives the Andean fox. Not powerful enough to dominate and not fast enough to outrun every threat, it became something else entirely. A strategist. Watch it long enough and you'll see it switch from hunting rodents to raiding bird nests to scavenging leftovers left by pumas. It's a master of improvisation, which is probably the only thing that works in a landscape that changes seasonally, daily, and sometimes hourly. And finally, tucked among the stones and shrubs, is the last creature you might expect to make this list, the Andean toad. It looks small, fragile even, but it holds the distinction of thriving at elevations where reptiles and amphibians simply shouldn't. You begin to understand why when you notice how still it stays, conserving every possible ounce of energy. Evolution didn't give it speed, it gave it patience. And in the Andes, patience is often the superior weapon. By the time you've met all 10 species, the truth becomes hard to ignore. The Andes aren't just mountains, they're a gauntlet. And each animal here isn't simply surviving. They're each delivering a masterclass in adaptation. And in a strange way, every one of them embodies the same unspoken message. When the world becomes harsh, you don't break, you evolve.